When did you first start to shape your identity around the concept of romantic love? The truth is, you might not even know it's happening, but for so many of us, the foundation of our beliefs about love is laid down early, almost as if it's woven into the very fabric of our childhood. Think back to the cartoons, the enchanting Disney movies, where the story is always the same, over and over again. There's a girl, she meets a boy, and then, like magic, she falls in love. And what happens next? Her life becomes perfect. It's like the universe itself bends to her newfound happiness. There's no more sadness, no more discomfort or pain, no conflict, no struggle. It's all swept away by the power of love. Think about how powerful that message is. These stories don't just entertain us, they indoctrinate us, gently molding our beliefs about love and life. The magic of Disney whispers in our ears, once you find that special someone, everything will fall into place. Your life will finally begin. Isn't that a heavy burden to carry? Even if we don't consciously use those exact words, that ideal takes root deep within us, planting the idea that our happiness is tied to finding that one person who completes us. From such a young age, we absorb this idea. We grow up feeling like something is missing until we find that other half. And isn't that what we often call our partners? Our better halves. The implication is clear, we are not whole on our own. It's almost as if society is telling us we are broken, unfinished, until we find someone to fill that gap. But here's the problem with that line of thinking, it creates an illusion, one that many of us chase for years, if not a lifetime. We are taught to believe that happiness, fulfillment, and even our self-worth hinge on someone else's love and approval. It's as if we're wandering through life, waiting for someone to come and fix us. The harsh reality is, this belief generates so much pain and confusion in our society. How many people do you know who have stayed in toxic, unfulfilling relationships simply because they're afraid of being alone? How often have we witnessed individuals lose themselves in the pursuit of romantic love, sacrificing their own needs, desires, and even identities, because they've been taught that love is the answer to all their problems? It's heartbreaking to think about. In All About Love, this ideology is peeled back, layer by layer. It exposes the cracks in the foundation of our beliefs about love. We'll come to understand that the fairy tales we grew up with, the Hollywood love stories, aren't the full picture. They're a romanticized version of something much more complex, something that requires more than just finding the one. Through this journey, we'll learn how to reclaim our understanding of love, shifting it from something external to something deeply internal. We'll explore healthier approaches to dating, self-growth, and the all-important concept of self-love. At its core, this isn't just about love in the romantic sense, it's about self-respect, boundaries, and realizing that we are already whole, even without a partner. Over the course of this exploration, we'll take a long, honest look at what love really is, beyond the dreamy fairy tales, and how we can cultivate it in a way that truly nourishes us, rather than depletes us. How do you define love? Have you ever truly sat down and asked yourself that question? If you have, did you find it easy to answer? Many of us are curious to know how others define love, as it seems to be one of life's biggest mysteries. But even with all the books, songs, and poems written about love, we still struggle to put it into words. Interestingly, some researchers decided to tackle this question in a way that might surprise you. They asked elementary school children what love meant to them. And the answers? Well, they're both adorable and profound. One little boy said, "When a person loves you, they say your name different. You just know your name is safe in their mouth." Isn't that beautiful? It's as if he's captured the very essence of trust in love with such innocent simplicity. A little girl chimed in with her own definition. Love is when you tell a boy you like his shirt and then he wears it every day. How sweet is that? The pure joy in something as small as a compliment, carrying the weight of love. And then there's another boy who said, "Love is when daddy comes in all sweaty and smelly and mommy still tells him he's handsomer than Robert Redford." These children, in their purest form, have managed to describe love in ways that touch the heart far more deeply than many adults can. And maybe that's because, as we grow older, we tend to lose that innocent clarity. We get tangled up in complicated feelings, confused between lust, attraction, and true love. Often, we mistake the rush of physical attraction for love, convinced that our desire is a reflection of something deeper, when in reality, it may not be. Our minds can be tricked, our emotions manipulated, and we become blind to the truth. How often do we hear someone say, "I love you," only to have their actions tell a completely different story? And tragically, many people hold on to those words, desperate to believe in them, even as they find themselves in abusive or unhealthy relationships. They cling to the idea of love, because letting go of that hope feels unbearable. This confusion, this inability to truly grasp what love is, leads to so much heartache. The world is filled with stories of people being used, mistreated, or taken advantage of, all in the name of love. And why? Because we often don't understand what love really is. We think we know, but our misconceptions lead us astray, and in the end, both we and the people we care about suffer. So, how do we fix this? How do we untangle the mess of emotions and misconceptions that surround love? The answer, according to the author, is surprisingly simple yet profoundly powerful. We need to change our perspective. We've been conditioned to think of love as a feeling, a magical sensation that either exists or doesn't. But what if love isn't just a feeling? What if it's something more? The author suggests we rethink love, not as an emotion, but as a verb. Think about that for a moment. Love is an action, something you do every day, not something you feel fleetingly. Love, in this light, becomes a continuous effort, a choice you make. It's not about waiting for a feeling to strike, it's about showing up, putting in the work, caring for someone deeply, and demonstrating that care through actions. When we start seeing love this way, everything changes. Our relationships become richer, deeper, and more fulfilling because we're not just waiting for love to happen, we're actively creating it. And when we start to see love as an action, it also changes the way we allow others to love us. We begin to look for actions, not just words. We start to understand that real love shows itself in the small, everyday moments, like someone remembering your favorite snack, or offering support during a tough day. And through this shift in perspective, we can finally clear away the fog of confusion that surrounds love, opening our hearts to something far more genuine, far more lasting, than the fleeting feelings we've been chasing all along. How do you define love? Have you ever truly sat down and asked yourself that question? If you have, did you find it easy to answer? Many of us are curious to know how others define love, as it seems to be one of life's biggest mysteries. But even with all the books, songs, and poems written about love, we still struggle to put it into words. Interestingly, some researchers decided to tackle this question in a way that might surprise you. They asked elementary school children what love meant to them. And the answers? Well, they're both adorable and profound. One little boy said, "When a person loves you, they say your name different. You just know your name is safe in their mouth." Isn't that beautiful? It's as if he's captured the very essence of trust and love with such innocent simplicity. A little girl chimed in with her own definition. Love is when you tell a boy you like his shirt and then he wears it every day. How sweet is that? The pure joy in something as small as a compliment, carrying the weight of love. And then there's another boy who said, "Love is when daddy comes in all sweaty and smelly and mommy still tells him he's handsomer than Robert Redford." These children, in their purest form, have managed to describe love in ways that touch the heart far more deeply than many adults can. And maybe that's because, as we grow older, we tend to lose that innocent clarity. We get tangled up in complicated feelings, confused between lust, attraction, and true love. Often, we mistake the rush of physical attraction for love, convinced that our desire is a reflection of something deeper, when in reality, it may not be. Our minds can be tricked, our emotions manipulated, and we become blind to the truth. How often do we hear someone say, "I love you," only to have their actions tell a completely different story? And tragically, many people hold on to those words, desperate to believe in them, even as they find themselves in abusive or unhealthy relationships. They cling to the idea of love, because letting go of that hope feels unbearable. This confusion, this inability to truly grasp what love is, leads to so much heartache. The world is filled with stories of people being used, mistreated, or taken advantage of, all in the name of love. And why? Because we often don't understand what love really is. We think we know, but our misconceptions lead us astray, and in the end, both we and the people we care about suffer. So, how do we fix this? How do we untangle the mess of emotions and misconceptions that surround love? The answer, according to the author, is surprisingly simple yet profoundly powerful. We need to change our perspective. We've been conditioned to think of love as a feeling, a magical sensation that either exists or doesn't. But what if love isn't just a feeling? What if it's something more? The author suggests we rethink love, not as an emotion, but as a verb. Think about that for a moment. Love is an action, something you do every day, not something you feel fleetingly. Love, in this light, becomes a continuous effort, a choice you make. It's not about waiting for a feeling to strike, it's about showing up, putting in the work, caring for someone deeply, and demonstrating that care through actions. When we start seeing love this way, everything changes. Our relationships become richer, deeper, and more fulfilling because we're not just waiting for love to happen, we're actively creating it. And when we start to see love as an action, it also changes the way we allow others to love us. We begin to look for actions, not just words. We start to understand that real love shows itself in the small, everyday moments, like someone remembering your favorite snack, or offering support during a tough day. And through this shift in perspective, we can finally clear away the fog of confusion that surrounds love, opening our hearts to something far more genuine, far more lasting, than the fleeting feelings we've been chasing all along. What's love got to do with it? If you've ever used a dating app like Tinder or Bumble, you've probably put a lot of thought into the version of yourself you put out there. Think about it. Did you carefully select a photo that makes you look your absolute best, hoping to catch someone's eye with a smile or a flattering angle? Maybe you listed some of your hobbies, achievements, or quirks that make you seem smart, funny, or interesting. But did you ever upload a picture of yourself first thing in the morning, unfiltered, with bed hair and sleepy eyes, or mention in your bio that you're still on your parents' phone plan? Probably not. Even if those things were true, it's unlikely you'd present them to a potential match. But here's the real question: does that mean you're being dishonest? Yes, and no. Of course, we all want to show off our best sides. Who doesn't want to make a good impression? It's only natural to present the most polished, most intriguing version of ourselves. It's not inherently bad to put your best foot forward, but when does that cross the line into misleading someone? And at what point does this curated persona become a problem? When someone matches with you, are they falling for the real you, or are they falling for the glossy, perfected version of you that you've carefully created? The author hits on an important point: this happens all the time. We've normalized this kind of selective truth, so much so that no one even thinks twice about it anymore. But the reality is, when the truth eventually comes out, whether it's after a few dates or in the midst of a relationship, it can leave both parties feeling cheated. How many times have we heard stories of people meeting someone online only to discover that their profile picture was either heavily filtered or, worse, wasn't even them? It's become a running joke, but the underlying issue is serious. We create expectations that real life can't live up to, and when those illusions come crashing down, disappointment follows. It's no wonder, then, that our search for love so often leaves us feeling frustrated, manipulated, and confused. How can we find something real when we're constantly sifting through layers of half-truths and societal pressures? The lines between love, lust, and deceit have become so blurred that many of us no longer know what's real and what's not. And that's the real tragedy here, because, in the end, love should be about genuine connection, not about playing a role or fulfilling someone else's fantasy. So, where do we go from here? It starts with being honest, truly, brutally honest with ourselves and with others. We need to strip away the illusions, drop the act, and present ourselves as we truly are, flaws and all. Because only then can we hope to find love that's real, love that's based on authenticity, not on a carefully constructed persona. The expression, falling in love, is so deeply ingrained in our culture that it almost seems romantic on its own, doesn't it? We hear it in every song that stirs our hearts, in movies where two characters lock eyes and their lives are changed forever, and in the books we read, filled with tales of love at first sight. We even hear it from our friends, who describe how meeting their new partner was fate or meant to be. It's as if love is something predestined, something magical, written in the stars, where two people are just helpless passengers on this whirlwind journey. But have you ever stopped to think about the real meaning behind that phrase? What does it actually say about love? The idea that you can fall in love, like falling into a hole, or stumbling by accident, makes love sound like something we have no control over. It's a mysterious, almost magical force that sweeps us up, blindfolds us, and carries us away, whether we like it or not. But here's the problem: if love is something we fall into, then what's stopping us from falling out of it just as easily? The author argues that this concept is one of the most damaging misconceptions about love in our society. Why? Because it removes the need for personal accountability. If you believe love is something that just happens to you, something out of your control, then where is the responsibility to nurture it? To grow it? To work at it every single day? The idea that you're just a helpless bystander in love absolves you of any effort or commitment. After all, if you didn't choose to fall in love, why would you need to work at staying in love? And when the spark starts to fade, as it inevitably does in any long-term relationship, you might say, well, I guess I just fell out of love. Nothing I can do about that. But the author passionately rejects this notion. Love isn't some unpredictable force of nature that sweeps in like a storm and leaves you powerless. It's not an accident, and it's certainly not something that just happens to you without any effort. In fact, this belief is the complete opposite of what love truly is. Real love is something you do, something you choose day in and day out. It's an action, a commitment that requires constant care and attention, not a fleeting feeling that comes and goes at will. Imagine this: what if love wasn't something we just stumbled into, but something we crafted, intentionally and wholeheartedly, each day? Instead of waiting for those euphoric highs of passion or sparks of infatuation to get us through the inevitable rough patches, we'd recognize that love requires effort, real effort, to thrive. It would no longer be this mysterious, fleeting emotion that comes and goes like the wind, but a constant, active choice. We'd realize that it's not enough to simply feel love, we must do love. We'd no longer be content with the idea that love is a passive experience, something that happens to us as if we're helpless spectators in our own relationships. Instead, we'd take ownership of it, nurture it, and protect it, knowing that real love demands constant attention. Think about what that would mean for our relationships. When the butterflies stop fluttering, when the honeymoon phase ends and real life settles in, when things aren't easy, this is when the true test of love begins. In those moments, love is no longer about the rush of romantic feelings. It becomes about understanding your partner, truly seeing them for who they are, and choosing to stay connected. It's about showing up for each other, even when it's hard. It's about communicating when misunderstandings arise, forgiving when mistakes are made, and finding new ways to connect when life pulls you apart. Now, picture what it would be like to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that your partner is choosing you every single day. That they are actively working to strengthen your relationship, just as you are. There's no more fear of love slipping away, no more wondering if the magic is fading, because you know love isn't just about magic. It's about work, commitment, and growth. When you build love, brick by brick, you create something solid, something that can withstand the storms life throws at you. When love is seen as a choice, an action, we stop waiting for it to miraculously fix everything. We stop believing that love will just happen to us and make everything better. Instead, we take control. We become responsible for how we love and how we are loved. We stop romanticizing the idea that love should always feel effortless and start embracing the truth that real, lasting love is created through consistent effort. The author highlights that this shift in thinking is essential because it forces us to reflect deeply on ourselves. When love is a choice, we are challenged to ask difficult questions. What am I bringing to this relationship? Am I investing in it fully? Do I truly understand what my partner needs? Am I willing to adapt, compromise, and grow? It's no longer about waiting for love to happen to us but about deciding to be love for someone else. And that decision comes with responsibility. It comes with the acknowledgement that love isn't perfect, that it won't always be easy, but it will be worth it. This reframing of love as a verb, something that requires conscious action, also allows us to redefine what it means to be in a healthy, loving relationship. It's no longer about being swept off our feet by a mystical force, but about creating a partnership based on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care for one another. It becomes about having the courage to communicate openly, to confront challenges together, and to continuously evolve as individuals and as a couple. It's also about understanding that love will change over time. The intense passion of new love may give way to something deeper, more stable, more profound. And that's okay, because love isn't static. It grows with you, as you grow. But it only does that if you're both committed to tending to it, like a garden that requires care, patience, and attention. It's not always glamorous, and sometimes it's downright hard, but those who put in the work know that what blossoms from that care is something incredibly beautiful and enduring. The author's point is clear: love isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you build, create, and choose every single day. And that's the true magic of love, not the falling, but the staying. The staying when things get tough, when life gets messy, when the excitement fades. The staying when it's hard to communicate, when you're both tired, and when you've had a long day. The staying when you're faced with differences, conflicts, and challenges. So, the next time someone says they've fallen in love, maybe you can smile and ask, are you ready to stay in love? Because that's where the real magic lies, not in the falling, but in the commitment to keep choosing love, day after day, no matter what life brings. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of love worth building. The author makes a powerful point here, one that we often overlook when we're caught up in the heady rush of romance. It's natural to think about what we want from a partner, what qualities we desire, how they can fill the gaps in our lives. We dream of someone who will shower us with affection, uplift us when we're down, and be a constant source of joy and support. And yes, there's nothing wrong with knowing what we want or expecting a healthy, fulfilling relationship. But the critical piece we often miss is asking ourselves, what do I bring to the table? Are you ready to not just take, but to give? It's easy to crave love when it's all roses and sunshine, but are you prepared to be a source of strength when the storm hits? Can you be the anchor when the waves of life try to pull you both under? Will you still be loving and supportive when you're drained, frustrated, or when life throws its harshest challenges at you? These aren't just theoretical questions, they are the real tests of love, the moments that define whether your relationship will thrive or crumble. The author doesn't just emphasize being a good partner on the surface level. Kindness, support, and love are not just words. They are actions, ones you'll need to perform even when it's inconvenient or downright difficult. It's not enough to show love when everything is going well. Will you still be there when your partner is at their lowest? Will you offer your hand when they're struggling, when they've lost their way, or when the realities of life are testing your patience? That's the love that lasts, the love that transcends fleeting attraction or superficial connection. And that's the love the author is urging us to embrace, a love rooted in action, not mere emotion. It's this intentional, grounded approach that can save us from one of the greatest pitfalls of modern romance, falling for the fairy tale. Oh, the fairy tale. Who among us hasn't been swept away by the Hollywood versions of love, where everything is picture perfect and couples ride off into the sunset without a single argument? Romance movies, love songs, and social media portray love as a constant whirlwind of passion and bliss. We see perfect couples exchanging tear-jerking vows, living in a bubble of everlasting happiness, and we think, that's what love should be. But the reality is far from the fairy tale. In real life, love isn't about stolen glances across a crowded room or grand gestures that make your heart skip a beat. Real love is messy, complicated, and sometimes downright exhausting. There are no perfect partners, no flawless relationships, and there certainly aren't any magical moments where everything falls into place effortlessly. And yet, we let ourselves get trapped in this fantasy, setting impossible standards for our relationships and our partners. When real life doesn't measure up to the fairy tale, we feel let down, disappointed, as though we've been cheated. But the truth is, the fairy tale was never real to begin with. The author challenges us to let go of this unrealistic ideal. Because if we cling to the fantasy, we set ourselves up for inevitable failure. The perfect partner doesn't exist. What does exist is someone who will show up, every single day, willing to love you despite your flaws, despite the challenges, despite the imperfections that life throws your way. And if you're lucky enough to find someone willing to build a relationship with you, brick by brick, day by day, then you've found something far more valuable than a fairy tale. This is where being intentional in love becomes so crucial. Instead of letting ourselves be swept up in the intoxicating dream of perfect romance, we need to take a step back and look at love for what it really is: hard work, commitment, and a series of choices made day after day. We need to evaluate not only what we want from a partner but also what we're willing to give. Are we willing to put in the effort to communicate when misunderstandings arise? Are we willing to love even when the initial spark fades? Because love isn't just about falling into someone's arms under the glow of candlelight. It's about standing beside them in the harsh light of day, through the ups and downs, through thick and thin, and saying, "I'm still here." So, when we consider a relationship, we should be asking ourselves not just whether someone can meet our needs, but whether we're ready to rise to the challenge of loving them in return. And if we can do that, if we can truly commit to loving someone through the good and the bad, the beautiful and the messy, then we've found something far more valuable than any fairy tale. We've found a love that's real, enduring, and worth every ounce of effort it takes to keep it alive. That's the kind of love that doesn't fade when the going gets tough. It's the kind of love that grows stronger with every challenge, every hardship, every victory shared. It's the kind of love that lasts a lifetime. The author hits on a crucial point about the realities of long-term love. Perfection is an illusion, and the moment we realize that our partner isn't flawless, we shouldn't view it as a death sentence for the relationship. Maybe your knight in shining armor snores so loudly that you feel like you're sleeping next to a chainsaw. Maybe your significant other has quirks or insecurities that they didn't show during the honeymoon phase. It's easy to feel disillusioned when the magic of the early days starts to fade, but this is where the real work of love begins. When we're in the early stages of a relationship, it's all excitement and butterflies. Every moment together feels like a scene from a movie, but eventually, reality sets in. The rose-colored glasses come off, and we start seeing each other's imperfections. At this point, many people panic. They think, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't the fairy tale I was promised. And so, they jump ship, convinced that the relationship is doomed. But this reaction stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what real love is. The truth is, real love isn't about everything being perfect all the time. It's not about finding someone who never makes mistakes or who always makes you feel like you're living in a rom-com. Real love is about accepting each other's flaws and still choosing to stay, to grow together, and to invest in the relationship even when things aren't picture perfect. The author emphasizes that mutual growth is the most vital component of a lasting relationship. Why? Because growth acknowledges that both partners are imperfect and have room for improvement. It's not about holding on to an idealized version of your partner but rather committing to help each other become better versions of yourselves. This kind of growth requires honesty, being able to communicate openly about the things that bother you or the ways you can improve together. It also requires realism, accepting that there will be hard days, days when you argue, or when life stressors spill over into your relationship. What truly matters is how you handle those moments. Do you walk away at the first sign of difficulty, or do you dig in and work through it together? The author believes that real love deepens with time, trust, and communication. It's in these moments, when the glow of new love fades, that the foundation of a strong, lasting partnership is built. And it's not about avoiding conflict or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about accepting that imperfections exist and committing to grow alongside your partner despite them. In fact, the best relationships are not the ones that never face challenges, but the ones where both people face those challenges together. They grow through the difficulties, becoming stronger and more connected as a result. The couples who last aren't the ones who avoid conflict or who expect everything to be flawless. They are the ones who choose each other even when things get tough. They understand that love is a journey of constant growth, learning, and understanding. So, instead of seeing imperfections as a red flag, the author encourages us to see them as an opportunity for growth. Can you accept that both you and your partner are works in progress? Can you commit to growing together, supporting each other through the highs and the lows? If the answer is yes, then you've unlocked one of the most important secrets to a successful relationship. Real love isn't about perfection, it's about progress, commitment, and the willingness to stay when things get tough. Because, in the end, true love isn't something that happens to you, it's something you build, day by day, hand in hand, flaw by flaw. The author makes a powerful point about how traditional gender roles can hinder the growth of a relationship. These roles, deeply embedded in societal expectations, often impose rigid boundaries on how men and women are supposed to behave in a relationship. For centuries, these roles dictated that men should be strong, stoic providers, while women were expected to be nurturing, emotional caretakers. But the truth is, when we pigeonhole ourselves or our partners into these narrow definitions, we not only limit our own growth, but we also prevent the relationship from evolving into something deeper and more meaningful. When we cling to these outdated ideas, we create unnecessary barriers. Men might feel like they can't express vulnerability because society tells them they have to man up and push their feelings down. Women, on the other hand, might feel pressured to hide their strength or independence to avoid bruising a man's ego. These expectations trap both partners, preventing them from fully embracing who they are or supporting one another in authentic ways. But the author argues that in order for love to truly flourish, these toxic, preconceived notions about gender need to be dismantled. Real love isn't about living up to society's narrow definitions of masculinity and femininity. It's about breaking free from those constraints and allowing both partners to be who they truly are, without fear of judgment or rejection. When you stop expecting your partner to fit into a box and instead embrace their complexity, you create a space where both of you can grow together. This mutual growth requires a mindset shift. Instead of thinking that men and women must stick to their separate spheres, we need to recognize that relationships thrive when both partners share responsibilities, emotions, and vulnerabilities. Men can be nurturing and emotionally present, just as women can be strong and independent. Love flourishes when we support each other in ways that go beyond stereotypical roles and expectations. Letting go of these roles allows for true connection. It opens the door to understanding your partner on a deeper level, appreciating their individuality, and building a partnership based on equality and respect. It means showing up for each other not as a man or a woman with predefined duties, but as two human beings committed to growing together. This growth is the heart of a healthy relationship. When you and your partner are free to explore who you truly are, without the weight of traditional gender expectations, you can build a love that's genuine, dynamic, and evolving. It's about being open to change, both in yourself and in your partner, and realizing that a successful relationship is not built on fitting into societal roles, but on accepting and supporting each other's unique qualities. So, if you want a love that lasts, it's essential to release those toxic ideas about what men and women should be. Real love is about learning, adapting, and growing together. It's about creating a relationship where both partners feel free to be their authentic selves, unburdened by outdated expectations. In the end, true love is a partnership of equals, where growth, trust, and understanding become the foundation for a deeper, more meaningful connection. Our society is indeed saturated with misconceptions about love, ideas that often lead to unhealthy expectations and unsatisfying relationships. From movies to fairy tales, we are repeatedly shown that love is a magical, effortless force that sweeps us off our feet. But as the author points out, this narrative is not only misleading but also damaging. It encourages us to view love as something passive, something that happens to us, rather than something we actively nurture and build. The truth, as the author argues, is that love is far more than just a fleeting emotion or a whimsical attraction. Love is a verb, it's an action. And that means it requires consistent effort, intentionality, and commitment. It means showing up for your partner, even when you're tired or frustrated. It means working through conflicts with patience and compassion instead of running away at the first sign of difficulty. In short, love is about making conscious choices every day to honor, support, and invest in the relationship you share with another person. When we shift our understanding of love from being a transient feeling to being an ongoing action, we can start to build relationships that are healthier and more fulfilling. We stop expecting love to simply happen to us and instead take responsibility for how we contribute to its growth. This perspective also encourages mutual growth, where both partners are committed to evolving together, fostering an environment of trust, respect, and shared experiences. Moreover, this redefinition of love helps to dismantle some of the toxic attitudes that pervade our culture. It challenges the idea that love should be perfect, or that it will always feel easy and magical. Instead, it reframes love as a dynamic, evolving process, one that requires vulnerability, effort, and a willingness to grow alongside your partner. With this mindset, love becomes less about finding someone who fits an idealized image and more about creating a real, lasting connection based on mutual respect and shared effort. Ultimately, by reconstructing our idea of love in this way, we can cultivate relationships that are far more meaningful and enduring. Relationships that are not defined by fleeting feelings or societal pressures, but by the mutual commitment to growing together, to learning from one another, and to building a foundation of trust and respect. This is the kind of love that withstands the test of time, not because it is perfect, but because it is intentional and grounded in the everyday actions that strengthen and sustain it.